Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply. USAA.
Boy, am I excited today. I've got two of my favorite people here, Liam and Kirk. And then I've also got two guests that are going to be joining us today. But we'll start it off here. Welcome back to another episode of
It's Just Coffee.
I'm Rowan Cook.
And I'm Kirk Pearson.
And today we have Matt and Joe, not the old radio host, not the Matt and Joe Show 1011019, the Fox. No, we got them from Rumble Coffee Roasters. These are two of my favorite people going around. And I'm really hoping that we can push them in to get some hot takes. I want to see you really take off and just lay in. I want your careers to be over once this podcast goes.
I've been primed to expect the hottest of hot takes today. That's what Sonam and Rowan have been setting me up for. So, expectations are high. I've made the listeners now.
We'll see what we can do.
Now, okay. How are you guys feeling? I know you're coming in, sitting behind a podcast table. Have you ever done a podcast before?
I've never done a podcast before.
I've done a couple, but not quite with this production values.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
He's done a couple there.
Yeah.
And what's your general feeling? How are you feeling today?
Nervous as hell.
Nervous as hell. All right.
I'm glad that you're here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because, I understand. If I was sitting across from Kirk, I wouldn't be too happy either. So I'm glad I'm here too.
I even agree with that, whatever.
There's nothing that you could say about me that I haven't said to myself 7 inches from a mirror.
Pretty much, I was having a bath last night and I was thinking to myself, do I grab the toaster? Sorry, this is getting a bit dark, right?
No, just because you wanted to make some toast in the bath is a great thing. Just a little snack.
Vegemite toast in a bath?
Yeah.
Never heard no one.
The bath, just diving in. The bath is always such an interesting one. I feel like it's dividing. How do we all feel about baths here?
Pro bath.
Pro bath.
Pro bath.
I don't currently have
I didn't
a bath,
say pro
so.
bat. I said pro bath. Okay. You don't have a.
I don't have a bath.
But what do you feel about it, taking one?
I'm okay with the bath. I kind of want a sauna at the moment. That's my
sauna's
thing
good.
Yeah.
Is that like a health thing or like?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
you're a
like
sauna guy?
My osteo told me I needed one.
Yeah.
What's the go with saunas? What's the benefit
I
of
actually
sauna?
don't know. She was like, you should get a sauna. So
because I see a lot of people doing the sauna these days. Joe
the
Rogan.
plunge is going on. The cold plunge and then the sauna, or vice versa. Diving back and forth between that.
Anyone here a plunger? Are you a cold plunge guy?
No,
okay.
No cold plunging.
No cold plunge.
You guys could have one here though. You've got the room. You could set it up.
Yeah, we could set up a
the
cold
back.
plunge. Should that be the new podcast?
Pre-podcast.
The hot take in the cold plunge.
Perhaps. Liam, are you a plunge or? Yeah, Liam nods yes.
You plunge?
You plunge? Okay.
How often? He said once or twice a month. Okay, so he's not a plunger.
Okay. Well, let's. Do you want to? I think this is going to be a really great episode.
I just wanted to jump onto the bath thing. Love the idea of a bath. Get in. 5 minutes in, I'm like, I filled this tub with so much water. I'm bored.
Oh man, I don't actually have a bath, but I would love a bath. In my next house, I think one of the prerequisites will be have a bath.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's. I think this is going to get out of hand very quickly, so we'll quickly do the coffee news.
Yeah, we'll do the coffee news, but I'll just start off by saying I know we said these guys are from Rumble Coffee Roasters, but they're one of the best roasters in Melbourne. They're also doing it very ethically. They report all of their coffees, fully traceable, and I think they're doing a great job. And they're a great kind of duo to look up to. That have done it before, 10 years of experience, and I think if you're anyone that loves coffee, if you're anyone that buys it, drinks it, works in it, you're going to learn a lot from these two guys here, and I'm really excited for the pod.
Yeah, I'm totally excited. So I'll quickly get through this coffee news. We only got one piece, but then we'll get right into it. Liam?
Most relaxing coffee news song that you could ever hear. It makes just tingles,
All right.
baby.
So new report values US branded coffee shop market at US $54 billion. So Coffee Portals Project Cafe USA 2025, that's pretty wordy, found that the market grew by 2,062 outlets, reaching 42,773 stores. Major chains like Starbucks, Dunkin, and 7 Brew expanded, while market competition intensified to include 500 chains. So chain coffee is brewing up in the US.
Oh, yeah. It's like the main go-to.
You know what's interesting? I think Luckin Coffee have that many stores in China.
Oh, yeah.
So,
But I was going to say, I thought that number would be higher.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's still a lot.
Oh, it's still a lot, but when you just multiply the amount of people versus Australia and that kind of thing, I'm like, I thought it would be a even higher percentage.
Well, Australia has quite a high per capita amount of coffee drinkers, is my understanding. Matt and Joe,
I think it's like 75%.
Yeah.
Like at least have 1 or 2 cups a day or something like that.
The more the merrier as far as we're concerned. In terms of coffee drinkers.
Let's up that number.
Anyone who's not drinking coffee should really start.
I think it's still like half of drinkers in Australia are drinking instant coffee though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instant coffee is a huge number of it.
Yeah,
do you
we
drink
forget about
instant?
instant. I know you do. I've heard about you on the pod drinking instants on the weekends.
Every now and I do.
again.
But you know what? It's kind of refreshing to be able to drink instant, to be honest. Like, I like having my coffee at work. I now own a cafe. I can do whatever I want there. But then when I go home, I like just having the saucepan to do the hot water and just like dirty tap water.
Fast, dirty. Yeah.
But like, mind you, I've got there's a guy that we actually want to get on the pod. His name's Greg the Pilot. I don't actually know his last name, but he's been coming to me for coffee for like 8 years across different shops that I've worked at. And he always just brings me gift, and it's always specialty instant. It's the best. So like, he pretty much keeps me caffeinated at home.
Any good specialty instants that have jumped out?
The best one in the world is black and white coffee in the US.
Okay.
They've made the best one so far. Axel Coffee here in Melbourne also do a great one.
Yeah.
Veneziano do some pretty good stuff, but it's quite expensive to do specialty instant.
It's very expensive. We've looked into it, and it's cost a fortune.
Yeah, there's only one company that was doing it, and it was in New Zealand.
Yeah, and there's a few different companies that do it here, but like you can make it yourself by sort of freeze drying it, putting in a dehydrator like they do for oranges and stuff for bars. But like specialty instant, it's not produced at scale, so it's pretty expensive.
But specialty instant, like, screw it, just do whatever you need to do to make it taste as good as possible. If it's instant, I don't care. Just whack it in there and away we go.
Yeah, sometimes I'll just. I mean, it's been a while since I've had a Moccona or something like that, but I've had some. You gave me some instant from Blue Bottle. That was a bit how you going.
Yeah, it was very, but like them, I look at that one, I'm like, what are they doing there? Because that's like such a.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online, Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
Generic coffee taste. Like in there, it was just like tasted chocolatey. Like I'm like, is that just straight coffee, or are they doing something there to just get that flavor? Because it felt very straightforward.
Yeah, well, I mean, I won't be going back to Blue Bottle. Let's just say. But anyway, into the podcast.
Absolutely. All right. First thing we have started off here. You guys have been in business for 10 years. Probably feels like longer in the industry that we work in, with how it all is.
And hospitality years, it's probably 20
Yeah, your
20
hospitality
to 30.
years. It's at least 25
Yeah.
there. You know, you're coming up to your 30th birthday there. How are you doing it? What are some of, like, when I say that you've been doing this for 10 years, what are your first emotions that jump into your mind?
I guess there's like a bit of relief that we got here.
Yep.
And mainly gratitude for, everyone that's kind of helped us along the way that we've been able to partner up with and work with, Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Matt, you transitioned from being a chef into opening a coffee roastery. And Joe, you've been in the coffee game for a while now. Are you both Satanists? Why do you love torturing yourselves like this? Why do you continue?
Yeah, well, it's that kind of hospitality thing, right? You're going deep into the flames. You could be an IT salesperson and earn infinitely more money. Why do you do this?
You reach a point where you just realize you just can't and don't want to do anything else. You work in coffee. You might try and leave it a few different ways. You keep coming back, and then it reaches a point where you just have to embrace it and just go, okay, I'm doing this forever now. I'm just in coffee for life.
Well, it's an interesting point you raised there about leaving it and coming back, because I've kind of had this own experience. Like I had this project called Sub-Zero Coffee during the pandemic. Well, it started just before the pandemic, but the pandemic kind of ruined it forever. And I felt so annoyed by coffee, and I've tried so hard to make it work as a career that I actually left. I started studying economics during the pandemic. I worked at a chlorine factory for a little while. I was so done with it all. But I think I needed that experience to make me appreciate just how much I love it. And have you ever experienced something the same?
I've come close. I've wanted to leave quite a few times.
Yeah.
And did try. I was at a point where I was about to leave. I was supposed to be a silent partner in an espresso bar that we had, and after a week, my business partners called me up and said they couldn't work together anymore. So I had to come in and get back behind the bar. And then after doing that for a little while longer, I just realized you can do whatever you want within coffee. Coffee's such an enormous industry that spans the globe and spans so many different aspects of the economy that no matter what you want to do, you can do it within coffee. Like you guys podcast within coffee. You're a media company within coffee. It's all coffee related.
Yeah.
Coffee is what ties it all together.
Yeah. And I had obviously like my childhood of like, you know, a young teenager into my early 20s working in coffee. And regardless of even when I was out of it, it was always like still a part of me, and every part of what I was doing, making coffee at home, like exploring cafes everywhere. So I think for anyone that's like been in it, there's always like that little tie back.
And you know the ones who could be in it and really make a go of it, like our business partner in Ballarat, Brendan. He used to work for me when he was a young fella, just 19, young barista. He was learning to be a journalist, went off to do journalism. And I said to him at the time, when you're ready to come back to coffee, let me know, get in touch. And sure enough, a few years later, like he did, he's in Ballarat, runs a tremendous cafe out there.
Cobb's Coffee.
Cobb's Coffee.
Cobb's.
Yeah, check it out.
Yep.
Great guys there. Now, just rewinding just quickly, I just want to get a little detail there. You were a silent partner. And after how long did they say they couldn't work together?
Like 2 weeks.
2 weeks. That's pretty like, you're not seeing the
taking a holiday.
2 weeks. You take a holiday and they're like, can't do it. I hate him.
Listen, it was, you know, these things happen.
2 weeks is
I'm going to double down here and ask for even more detail. What was the primary reason for the friction? But you don't have to name names here.
No. I mean, they'll know who they are, obviously. But they just couldn't function, I guess, together as a working team. It was a very small team, so we were starting. I only really needed 2 baristas on. So I was just going to be in the background, you know, not really doing much at all. And that was not how it worked out.
Silent to very loud.
Silent to being, making coffee every day, back on the machine.
And what was your transition? So chef to coffee?
That's really satanic.
Chef to coffee. Well, chefing the hours were harder.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think it was probably at the end of like a 21 days straight running a kitchen that I decided that it was, time to kind of get out. And I was working for a not-for-profit. Joe and I were actually both working for it. It's called Social Roasting Company in Flemington. And we had 3 shops and a coffee roaster. And so I kind of ended up managing all these sites and actually kind of really enjoyed that part because it wasn't at the kitchen anymore. And then we had the roaster, and then the guy who was roasting the coffee left, and I just kind of jumped on and then got trained up by someone, and I was like, this is great. You know? At the time I was still managing 3 sites and doing the coffee roasting as well, and then finally managed to get out of all the management side and just focused on the coffee, which was great.
So life balance coming in there, because you're an avid surfer as well, right?
I try to surf, yeah.
Yeah, love hanging 10, love catching a tube. Some other terrible terminology that I can throw in there to show that I've never surfed in my life.
Dude, on the hospitality chef, coffee roaster thing, do you feel like nothing's really hardcore enough for you to be able to do? Like I couldn't sit in an office. Like it would drive me insane.
I was really happy when the beer came out, and then I could relive all the PTSD of being in a kitchen because that was really hard to watch for me. And
I've heard a lot of people say that they cannot watch it.
Anxiety.
I haven't even watched it because who needs that?
The quick cuts between each person and each section and each thing going on, like the one where do they have a docket machine that doesn't work, and then they realize they've got to like 50 orders come through in 0.1 of a second.
Handwrite dockets again.
Handwriting more.
That happens to me once a week. Even still.
Yeah,
like the square, even with this brilliant Bluetooth technology, it still just shits itself once a week, and it's tough. But
all right, so jumping back into roasting, running the place, do you feel like along the journey, for the people that are listening that might want to jump into this, what is the biggest mistakes, or what are the mistakes that you've made along the way that you're like, going around again, you'd be like, watch out for this?
Well, you'd always say that you want to start with more money because everything takes so much time and money to do anything. But our biggest thing we would change is we'd open up a retail store right from the start, because we didn't do that. We wanted to be a wholesale coffee roastery, and I don't know if you guys know this, but wholesale is very competitive in the coffee space.
Oh, we're going to touch on that. Don't worry.
Yeah. So we've managed to do it, but we kind of, just before the pandemic, we were getting ready to open up a retail store, and then we've done more since. And now we realize that selling your coffee directly to the consumer is the best way to get ahead and do it. And also just get some feedback from the punters, selling coffee to people who are drinking it and loving it is just great. They email you or call you, it's just the best.
Yeah, you've built a great community down there with like everyone that comes in. Like everyone's very vocal and chatty with you and sharing their experience.
Yeah, we've got people who come in right to the roastery. We've been selling coffee from the roastery from the start, but for a long time it was just a shelf with some, bags of coffee, brown bags.
Yeah, the homemade retail shelf was, looking back on it now, it wasn't great. It served its purpose for sure.
Was there ever any moments where you've done something where you thought, geez, this could sink us? Like outside of COVID, like I imagine there was probably a few moments there where you're like, oh, what do we do now? But like, is there anything you've done, like you spent too much money on one thing, you invested in something that didn't quite work?
Every time you buy a new coffee roaster, you're like, it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you're just like, is this, do we need this and can we pay for it?
I think that's, one of the things about the roastery, which is kind of different to cafes. It's like you kind of start off, you spend all this money and then, any money that comes in, you just have to keep buying more stuff. It's like if you go to a cafe, there's very little that you have to kind of upgrade, over time. But with the roastery, it's just every single dollar that we've made has just gone back into it. And there's always something else you need to buy to like get the quality up or roast more coffee.
And buying green coffee. I mean, you commit to buying like tons of coffee at a time sometimes. And that's like when you look at the numbers, that can freak the hell out of you if you think about it. Just don't think about it. It's best.
Yeah, and even with the scaling, you're like, oh, guess what? We've raised our coffee orders to this amount. We're making so much coffee. We barely even have like people to be able to bag it now. Yeah. Oh, we have to buy a $100,000 bagging machine or whatever it is, There's always something added on.
If you were to be kind to yourselves, what do you think are some of the things that you've done best along the way?
I think we've always been quite good at roasting coffee, and we've worked at getting better at roasting coffee all the time. When we started, the coffee game was very hard to learn how to roast. There was no books. Like we're not like that old, but there were no books. There was no very little information on the internet. Like it was pretty much a dark art. And if you talk to old roasters, looking back, you realized it was so mysterious because they didn't really know what they were doing because they weren't measuring anything. They didn't have the software that we have now. They would have like one temperature probe and a timer, and that was kind of it.
Well, this is something I was going to ask you later, but we brought it up now, so let's go there. How was it working around things and what was the kind of the introduction of like Cropster and was it Artisan? Was that the...
Artisan was the first one. So that was, when we first started roasting, it was like you just write everything down in a book. And I don't think anyone really knew what their data meant.
You just fill it all out and never do anything with it. Yeah.
So, you would look at things just like the final temperature and the final time and you kind of copy that. And I remember someone saying one of the first things they said was like, the perfect time to drop the coffee is 20 seconds before second crack. And I was like, how do you even know when 20 seconds before second crack is if you've never been to second crack?
Well, can you explain first and second crack to those listening?
So it's just like an audible sound that the coffee makes as it expands. So first crack is moisture release generally. So it's just the coffee kind of gets to a certain temperature, then you have this build up of steam, and then it just kind of boils and cracks the bean open a little. And then second crack is more CO2. So it's you've kind of most of the moisture is now gone. Now you've got this build up of gas.
Dealing with some serious dark roast at second crack.
And there's also the never gotten to third crack, that's when your coffee roast is on fire.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Third crack at it. And
that's a good name for a extra dark roast. Third crack.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it exists. I'm pretty sure someone's done it. Yeah.
So the introduction of this data somewhere along the way. So before it was like this time, feel, smell, scent, all that sort of stuff, visuals. What's like the introduction of data like for you at that point?
So there was a few people talking about like jogging out the numbers onto a graph and actually like trying to get like a hand-drawn, curve. But then, I found out about Artisan. I think it came out in like 2010 and it was like an open source program. So you had to go on and like download this thing and try and figure out how to use it. And it was, it's been a lot of hours on that. But then finally you could actually see a curve and start to see how things go. And then, so that was a lot of fun.
Rowan, and you and I could probably elaborate on as well, like the introduction of weighing your portafilter when you came to work, the time, now yield as well. You're measuring so much in coffee.
Yeah, that's the biggest change. And the best change in coffee has been the weighing and measuring on both sides. But like making coffee, like when I learned how to make coffee as a barista, no one weighed anything. You timed stuff, but that was it. And no one knew what they were doing. So when there was a problem, you didn't have a common language to talk with the roaster about.
Three clicks on the rover?
Yeah. Three clicks, click, scrape.
On all the things, like I always said this, and some of my advice to like the younger baristas out there is like, try to find the best place with the smartest people that you look up to in doing it, because it's like the first place I worked at for 3 years, when I went to a new cafe, I learned more about coffee in the first week of being there than my 3 years. Then I went to an even better cafe and I learned more in the first week of being there than my 2 years at that other place. Because like at the start, the stuff that you would just get told by some random, at my time, older person who's 24 in a machine, they'd be like, oh, see that you want to get that dark brown creak through the middle because that's like caramelized sugars or like blah, like they just make up stuff that was kind of passed on like urban myths from cafe to cafe. The drip, you want like 3 drips at the start and that's like how you know you've got a perfect extraction, or there were all these weird rules. And you were just talking before with the grinders, we didn't have like either the weighing grinders or the timed grinders. You'd have this big like paddle. Yeah. You go click, 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 and it would be like 3 on the side. We used to do one where we had a knife and you'd like flatten it off on the top and then you'd like tamp it down. So it was like there must have been like such bad consistency in cafes at that time. Like,
we used to worry a lot about how hard people were tamping all the time because we were worried, oh, so-and-so is really strong or big or whatever. But what it actually was is we were putting different amounts of coffee in the portafilter all the time, and that was where it was. Like it's not how hard they tamp, more or less. It's if you're putting 18 grams or 20 grams, that's a huge difference, you know?
Quick off-the-cuff question for you. This is kind of like extra hot take round 1. Ooh. But what do you reckon the biggest gimmick in coffee is? I just thought of this question now. What do you reckon the biggest gimmick in coffee is?
Probably mango lust. Coffee.
Yeah. Probably putting things in the portafilter, you know. Rowan loves a good cinnamon or orange rind in the portafilter.
Orange rind? No. I did some spices once mixed in with the coffee. It was great.
I've never tried that.
Yeah, it was fun. It was good.
I could say infused coffee, but you know that might just wind you up a little bit.
No, go there. Let's go. Do you think it is
the current biggest gimmick? Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I quite like some infused coffee, so you know.
Oh, stop trying to be nice. Come on, get into it.
Not saying that I don't see a time and a place for them. Like you know,
but it is a trend in the sense of.
See, I'm someone that's like very experienced in selling your common $5 latte. The bread and butter of our industry. I've well versed in selling a $30 geisha, you know, well in abundance. But I don't think there's been anything more refreshing for me than serving co-fermented coffee, because I underestimated the customers in Melbourne before opening the store. And I think, like, obviously it's pretty hard not to be good at it. And I think not for it not to taste good, really. I mean, you put it in, it does its job because it's, you know, it's infused. So, and spiked and whatnot. But I think it's like, so many more people can enjoy the coffee at large doing it. And I know there's a lot of people that disagree and hate it, and yeah, for good reason. I think it has its time and place, but it's been really refreshing for me, you know, as someone that's done all that other stuff. This has been more rewarding.
I don't know if it's mental or like it's mental. I don't know if it's like mental, like in my mind, but I feel like I don't mind it as much if it's like, especially in a cold style drink or even like mixed with milk. If I was just drinking just like an espresso that was like co-fermented, I just feel a bit like, I don't know, oh yeah, it's just adding flavor to this coffee that wasn't originally there. But when it's mixed in like a bigger kind of ice drink, it just feels like someone adding vanilla to it.
See, I'm not offended by these guys saying that to me. What I am offended about is when like people like you insult my culture in Italy. And,
your culture, you know, what culture is that again?
I'm Italian.
Italian.
6.25% Italian.
This is you found this out by, you spoke to a family member and they told you that a great someone was related. I want to see some genetic testing. I'm not going to believe a word of this until I see some proof on a piece of paper.
Let's do a 23andMe on the podcast one day. So maybe we can do it next week.
What's that, like a COVID? Do you just like ram a swab up your nose?
Is that how it's done?
I think so.
I've never done it.
Can we do
Ancestry.com?
Yeah,
is that another one?
Let's do a 23andMe. I did one of the genetic ones and it was, or maybe my mum did it, and it was just like Scottish and English. Like it was nothing interesting, just as wide as possibly could be. But let's get a test.
We'll work out how to do that, and we'll prove my ethnicity. And you know, it doesn't escape that your, you know, vilification of the Italian people, but we'll get there.
Love the Italian people. Just because I prefer a xiaolongbao to a ravioli.
What about like a blind dumpling ravioli taste-off?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Both of you are blindfolded and you get fed different dumplings.
Yeah. It'd be pretty bad if we did it. If I'm like, oh my God, that shumai is amazing. It's like, Rowan, there's a pumpkin ravioli.
We were discussing our favourite curries before we clicked record. Yours is a dal makhani.
Yeah, it's delicious.
What's yours?
Well, I've got a 9-year-old boy, so we always share the curry. So it's butter chicken. It's butter chicken life for me all the way.
Rowan?
What is the maybe a vindaloo?
Vindaloo, okay. Well, mine, I'm on record. A lot of people that listen to this podcast would now know Malai kofta from Spice Mix, 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
Really
I do need to get into it more. I think I've said this before on the pod. Like my partner can't. Like Indian food is the worst food for their diet because they can't eat any onion, garlic, legumes, blah blah blah.
Is she FODMAP?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just like everything's completely off. But it's like one of the cuisines that I absolutely love. But don't get enough of. Speaking about just winding back the 9-year-old son, you said?
It's true, yes. Nearly 10. You need to get these things.
We actually bonded when we chatted about that over a little video game called Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom.
You're into it?
Oh, and you dived in as well.
My son is, and so is Rowan. So
yeah, but you dived into it as well. Don't lie. Don't lie on the pod.
He's embarrassed by my son's embarrassed by how bad I am at Zelda because I haven't finished it yet, and he still gives me grief.
But you've still gotten fairway.
Oh yeah, I've spent some hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when you start to see a 9-year-old boy be that much better at video games than you start to lose the will to.
Yeah, see, that's the tough thing. If I'm ever a parent, it's like I reckon I'll be like,
don't get them video games.
Well, I'll be competing. It'll be like when you're playing your kid in like basketball, and the first time they like score.
He's better than me at basketball now as well. Yeah, it's all happening.
You must suck at basketball.
I do suck at basketball.
Wow, really?
He's nearly 10.
He's nearly 10. That's my justification.
Don't beat yourself up. I bet he can't roast a Nestor Lassa Sidra.
Oh, exactly.
There's plenty in it for all of us. But anyway, we better get back onto the podcast stuff. Yeah. I could talk about curry all day. Let's talk B-corp certification. So we had on Nick Percy from the Nomad Coffee Group last week, and he kind of outlined B-corp certification and kind of a lot of hurdles that he had to jump through as a big business, and he's kind of employed to do that as his job. You guys are a smaller roastery and specialty coffee roastery exclusively, and you are one of the few in Australia or Melbourne that is B Corp certified. So what's the process like for that, and why do you kind of go for that?
So a B Corp is a company that puts people and planet alongside profit. So you've kind of got the three goals
Ps
that you're looking after. And so we decided, well, Matt convinced me. He'd always wanted to be a B Corp. And Matt convinced me it was a good idea. I knew there'd be a load of paperwork involved, which is what put me off from doing it for a long time.
So it's his idea, but you went in the trenches.
I had to do the paperwork.
We had someone working for us at the time who was currently at university, and I thought she would be like perfect to do it. And or to help Joe with it.
She was very helpful for a while.
So she helped, and then unfortunately she went to save some turtles up in Queensland and kind of left Joe to do it by himself.
With an organisation or just personally, like there was 4 turtles?
No, it was an organisation.
Okay, right.
Still though, she went on and did some good things for the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. Save the turtles.
No matter where she is, she's making an impact. I like that.
She was the one who actually introduced having to use paper straws.
Well, yeah, there's sugarcane straws as well. But anyway, what's the process like getting accredited?
So, you don't get into small business like we do because you love doing paperwork. So that's what kind of held me back. But once you do start with B Corp, they're very good at helping you through the process. They outline everything, and you just need to document and showcase everything that you do in your business. We were very lucky in that we didn't have to change what we did. So we were already doing things the right way to get enough points to certify as a B Corp business. But when we go to recertify in a year and a half, we want to improve your score. So you're always trying to, which we try and do anyway, is try and improve your business. But just things like the way you recycle your products, how you look after your staff, all of these sorts of things, how you buy your coffee, all of that. So we'd been doing this transparency project where we disclosed what we paid for our coffee each year. We've been doing that since 2019. So as a B Corp, you do an impact report. So we transition that into an impact report, which covers everything that we do for the year in terms of like we installed solar panels last year and how you recycle your bags or any of that sort of information.
Do you think retail customers look at that and make a conscious decision to buy from you because of that?
Yes, I think it's more they, especially with b-corp, they have an idea of what it is, and if they see that there, they know that there's a lot of work involved. So that's kind of enough to go, oh yeah, these guys are doing the right thing, which is why we did it.
I just like it as those stamps of those things, especially now. I feel like it's hard to know what you can trust and what's there, and it's hard to listen to like what people do. Also, it's hard to do research on every single thing that you purchase in the world and be like, yep, I can guarantee that that's good. So sometimes just for the ease of it, when you're like, I know B Corp's good, there's that stamp, I know they have to follow a certain amount of guidelines. Good by me. Let's get on with it.
I think you're like with specialty coffee, it's like we've always been pretty hard on fair trade and other certifications. And I think B Corp kind of gets past that because it's kind of a different certification that you can have, and still do the coffee and buy the coffee that you want to buy.
Yeah, and it goes into also the treatment of like people in the workplace and like that kind of stuff as well. So it's a full culture thing beyond just doing the right thing as well.
Absolutely. The huge part of it is all of your policies around your staff and how you treat them and all of that sort of thing. So it's a really great certification to have. I'm just not looking forward to doing it again. That's all.
Yeah, good luck to you. Yeah, and thanks. Maybe you come in with the assist a bit more. I don't know. It was your idea.
Maybe I will next time. Yeah.
One other question I wanted to ask you is, and I think this is going to be this is one we'll probably spend a bit of time on. What do you think is wrong with the wholesale coffee market in Australia? Because to set the tone here, I feel like in Melbourne, in Australia, we've kind of been victims of our own success. The coffee's been so good. It's a big part of our culture. And, a lot of people who've succeeded in coming up in the years. I think the market's kind of turned now where it's almost like this toxic, undercutting each other, kind of doing the wrong things. So many people in the industry and doing different things, different. So much I can't even talk about, but we'll get into it now. What do you think is wrong with the wholesale coffee market?
I mean,
extra hot takes round two.
There's a lot of like little things, right? I mean, I was thinking about, talking to someone the other day about, money and cafes. And there was one little thing that, I don't think gets talked about, which is, the cash that has kind of come out of cafes. You guys are probably the same. Like when we started in hospitality, there was a lot of cash, a lot of people getting paid in cash. And it was, under the table work. But the thing was that there was a lot of cash going through cafes, and the owners would quite often not take a wage, and they would take cash out of the business. And now, there's very little cash that comes through. I mean, I think we're probably looking at like 5% in one of our cafes, of the amount of cash that we get through. And the coffee price per cup has gone up a little bit, but I think if you actually factored in the amount of cash and the amount of money that's gone away from owners through that cash, the price probably should have gone up a lot more, and that's probably what kept the price lower for such a long time.
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting point because like compliance in paying wages and declaring your income and kind of that kind of thing, it's only really become mainstream for the hospitality industry in the last 5 years.
Yeah, it was a completely illegitimate industry for a very long time, and which no one knew about. Everyone working there knew, but your average customer had no idea. They had a normal job, and they expected that you were treated like them as a normal employee. They didn't realize that you were paid cash, you weren't paid super. The boss was taking out all that. All these things were just commonplace. Yep. And that's changed since COVID and since the digitalization of everything for the better.
There's a bit of to and from on that as well. Is like you think of someone like a uni student. They go to uni. There's X amount of hours they can work before their sort of benefits from the government get affected. So they work an under the table job, or people that are here on different visas. There's a whole raft of reasons why they would want to just get paid cash. So I look at someone like George Columbaris, and I think in hindsight, from the kind of the public, I guess, torching he got, he's just the guy that got caught. There's been so many people that have actually been doing that. He just took the fall for the industry.
It must have been a huge percent. It must have been like 80%, if not more.
We moved over from New Zealand, and I could not believe it was not like this in New Zealand. It was just you'd go to your first job, and 90% of staff were just paid cash. Yeah. There'd be 2 employees on the books. And how did this how's no one caught on to this?
Yeah, but I mean, they're just because I guess when there's under a certain amount of money, it would just be like, let's declare the bare minimum legally that we know. Like people would work out, oh, the taxation officer aren't going to look into you as long as you declare X amount and this much. And
but that's probably something I'm surprised we haven't spoken about as much on the podcast until now. Is like the cost of compliance. You know, like you said, it's kind of been an illegitimate business, and a lot of I think restaurants in particular are probably paying the price for it now because. You know,
struggling everywhere.
The cost of getting a steak or something is you're probably looking at like $40 to $50 starting.
Yeah, we've had to catch up. Prices have had to kind of catch up quite quickly, which has left lots of the consumers with a bit of whiplash of like, well, a steak used to be $20. Now it's $50. I can't go out for a steak, you know.
I think that's probably the biggest, like one of the biggest changes that we haven't talked about because it's, you know, if you talk about the prices that things have actually gone up, prices have probably actually gone up by that much.
Yeah.
You know, like coffee prices have gone up a bit, but not heaps. You know, milk prices have gone up a bit, but it's wages and the compliance to pay those wages are the things that have really gone up and kind of jumped exponentially. And, you know, we haven't had time to, or people haven't enough time to pay that money.
And it feels like the customer maybe haven't connect those dots because on one side they want to yell and be like, pay them, treat them fairly. And then they're on the other side going, why is my steak $50?
I always find it funny. It's like if you do like a weekend surcharge or a public holiday surcharge, the people who complain about that have probably never earned penalty wages in their lives.
Yeah.
And don't actually understand how it works.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the cost it has on the business. And I guess now that businesses actually have to pay that as well, there's another element to it. It's like they probably didn't before, but they do now.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's crazy to think like, you know, a barista on a public holiday can be behind the machine earning $50, $60 an hour.
More.
$80, up to $80 an hour kind of just standing behind the machine. I mean, I have a lot of friends who run venues now that actually purposely just close every public holiday because they're like, I'll lose money on that day.
Yeah, you can be flat out for the whole day. Everyone can work super hard and you can make zero money or lose money. And so why not just take the day off?
I think for me personally, I've got a cafe as well. It's like the grief of having to, you know, put up with people that don't want to pay us. Like, you know, it's just not worth the grief either.
But it's also good for your staff to close.
Project Zero Coffee.
Oh, okay. Say one more time.
Project Zero Coffee.
Oh, okay, great. Where was that?
140 King Street.
140 King Street. Project Zero?
Yeah, okay. Project Zero Coffee. Yep. Sorry, what were you guys saying before Rowan interjected?
I was just going to say it's actually quite nice for the staff to have the day off as well.
Yeah.
They get paid for doing nothing.
Yeah.
If you're a full-time employee.
You're a full-time employee.
Yeah, I like that.
I mean, I think it's great for them. Bad on the culture of like, we're being forced into a world where places are wanting to close on days that everyone should be going, it's a public holiday, let's go out and enjoy Melbourne because it's so beautiful and I love this city. And everyone's like, nah, too expensive to run the city.
Like going back to the days and like Christmas Day when nothing is open. Or Sundays.
Well, yeah, and that's I wasn't expecting you to say that because the original question was, what do you think's wrong with the wholesale coffee market? I think there was a raft of things I was kind of expecting. That wasn't one of them.
No.
Can you elaborate on any more? Because I kind of feel like...
Another question. Who is your least favorite person in the coffee industry? No, but yeah, there's surely more. There's got to be some stuff in wholesale that...
I think part of the problem is it's not just wholesale. It's people think coffee is just coffee. And we've spent our entire careers trying to talk about specialty coffee and differentiate coffee. But people are always comparing, I can get a coffee from this place down the road for $3. Why are you charging $5 or $7? And like, how do you differentiate that? And to the less educated consumer who just thinks coffee all tastes like coffee, they often don't see that value. And so it's always trying to sell, you know, and show how good you are and how good the coffee tastes, but the service and all of these sorts of things, which leads into us being able to charge what we need to charge to buy great coffee.
Well, that probably leads into my next question rather well. And this is a lengthy one, so stick with me here. So you guys shared an Instagram post recently that got quite a lot of traction. I saw it reshared a lot, so I'll just read the whole thing to you. So quote you guys. You may have noticed a fair bit of talk lately about cheaper coffee and reputable newspapers talking about where you could still find a $3.50 cup of coffee. This is not the conversation we should be having. Cheap coffee has a destructive impact on the hospitality industry, ethical pay, and the environment, the caliber of specialty coffee that Melbourne has become known for. If cafe owners are charging less for their coffee, someone is without a doubt getting screwed over. Cafe owners will be trying to cut costs wherever they can, whether that's with unfair wages or trying to source the cheapest coffee they can find, which pressures their roasters to put prices down and source the cheapest green coffee they can find, which causes green buyers to pay less to growers, the most vulnerable people in the whole equation. This, in turn, is lowering the standard of the green coffee produced. The result? Bad coffee, underpaid workers, struggling cafe owners, and the ultimate demise of the industry as we know it. The biting truth is that good coffee is never cheap coffee.
Well said. Said.
Clapping to you. Can we elaborate on that, please?
So, I mean, I've been in specialty coffee now for 20-something years, and it's been this huge explosion of specialty coffee. There's fancy coffee machines, there's beautiful fit outs, all of this sort of things happened. But so much of that value hasn't gone back to the grower. And so great coffee growers now are struggling to find the next generation to take over their farms because there's just no money in it for them. So whenever we're talking about paying less for coffee, we are talking about paying less to those people who we need to grow great coffee, which we can enjoy. And then climate change affects coffee, especially the coffee we buy, high-grade specialty coffee, affects that the most. So they need the resources to be able to invest in their farms to grow different varietals or to learn different practices to improve their crop and be able to adapt to the changes. So whenever someone says coffee is too expensive, I just get so irate about it because they're just undervaluing the work of so many people. When you go to Origin, you see people pick coffee and you know how many human beings are involved in getting those beans, those cherries off the tree, processing them, shipping them over here, being roasted by hand in a lot of cases, being made by hand. I mean, you've got this long chain of people, so many human beings who've been involved. And if you're saying, I don't want to pay more than $5 for that, like you're just...
I think
and then the barista making it.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess one thing to understand about this is like we see so many news articles and things about it right now, and people get so anxious about this subject. But I actually think that it's because they love coffee so much.
Oh, absolutely.
And
they've had too much coffee.
There's that. But like it comes from a place of love because they love coffee so much. They don't want to see it because they depend on it. And I look at that in a way that it's like I think people are still going out and buying coffee, perhaps not at the rate they always have, but still quite a lot compared to the amount of times they go to a restaurant. I think coffee's doing better than like sort of food venues at the moment. Do you agree?
I mean, we think coffee's doing great. Our places are doing great. Lots of our customers are doing really well. I think the consumer has been hit by inflation, but they're making their choices count. So when they go out for a coffee, they want to go out for a great cup of coffee. They're not going out to their second or third favorite place. They're going to their favorite place because they don't want to fuck it up. They want to make sure that money's well spent.
But can people also alter their buying habits in the way that they're doing it? If it's becoming too expensive to have 2 a day or whatever it is, it's like, coming to you guys, get you one coffee of the day made by the barista, buy a bag of beans from you guys.
Yeah, go to rumblecoffee.com.au.
Yeah,
buy a kilo.
What was it called again?
Rumblecoffee.com.au.
So Rumble, like Rumble in the Jungle.
Like Rumble in the Jungle.
Coffee.com.au.
Rumblecoffee.com.au. I like that.
Yeah, but come in, you grab a bag of coffee. We can speak here. Too many coffees for me. Grab a bag of coffee, take it home. You're probably brewing when you're buying like a kilo of coffee. It's probably costing you for a single shot of coffee anywhere from like 50 to 70 cents. Add that with some milk. You're making a latte for under $1 at home from high-end specialty coffee.
But this is a really interesting conversation to have because you're a coffee roaster that charges probably a premium compared to a lot of coffee roasters for your coffee. And then, you're saying that your customer's doing quite well. And I think that's the interesting point about this. A lot of people are so fearful about low prices or coffee prices going up, but it's cafes like yours and business operators like yours that in this economic crisis that, the cost of living crisis, they're actually doing the best.
Because it's a little bit because, if you buy something and you spend more money on it, you probably believe in that thing. And if you believe in that thing, it's easier to sell. So if you've got, staff and the owner of a place in a cafe and they're using coffee that they really believe in, they're going to find it easier to sell that coffee, sell it to the customers, and the customers are going to enjoy it more because everybody just believes in it more.
And this is an interesting point to drive home to some of the listeners that might be cafe owners listening right now. It's like, you can switch to someone that's, significantly cheaper, different roaster, but it might actually tank your business. Like you think you're making a saving, but that like justify that to your customers and they might not see the value in it anymore.
Yeah, and we'll get cafe owners or potential new accounts come to you and they're like, your coffee's so great, blah blah blah, but so and so can give me their coffee for X amount, $10 a kilo cheaper. And I'm like, yeah, our coffee's so great because we buy better green coffee than they do. We spend more money on the raw product. So you just you pay more, you look after it, and it just tastes better. That's just how it is.
Supplementary question, if I may. There's a lot of wholesale coffee roasters that fit the modern definition for specialty coffee. Do you think the specialty coffee scoring system's a bit broken? Do you think it's out of date, needs updating?
Kind of funny you ask. I've just been reading up about, so SCA are actually bringing in a new protocol, which is called the Cold Coffee Value Assessment, which is actually starting to look at different parts of the coffee quality, on a form where you start to take in how much information you can actually trace back the coffee to. So kind of this idea that, if you're buying a coffee and it comes with the farmer's name and you know what the process is and you've got more information about that, then that coffee actually has more value, which is probably, something that needs to happen so that, because the part of the problem with the scoring is that, the technology caught up and the coffee has gotten better because the technology's gotten better. Yes, we've got new varietals and they're, being good and, farming practices and change, but like the sorting machines that you have at mills now are, amazing. And they can take, fairly average coffee to score over 80 points.
So yes, you think it's broken?
Yes.
And
I don't think it ever really worked the way that they wanted it to.
If you were calling the shots, what would the threshold be? Well, by number,
Well, personally, this is what I was going to talk about a bit later on, but I personally think it needs to be traceable. Coffee needs to be part of what specialty coffee is. If you don't know where it comes from, it's not specialty coffee.
If you have a bag of just, generic South American blend, I don't care if it's 81 points, we don't think that's specialty coffee. If it's just from a entire continent, it's just not good enough.
And that's kind of what we were talking about as well with Common Folks when we had them on, right? We were chatting about like the death of specialty and like partnership coffee and slightly different kind of thing, but there has to be a score that is associated with that bean that's based on who's making it, how it is, all those elements, because there's so much more to the story of the coffee than just what's in the bag at the end of the day.
And the raw points system, you can buy coffee from a grower, you can buy a bunch of coffee that's like 84, 85 points, but maybe they've got a lot that's just touching 80 or 79. But by you buying that coffee, it might be more helpful to them because you're buying up more of their crop rather than just sticking to buying, Yeah.
One of the things, as part of our transparency report, we joined up with the Specialty Coffee Transparency Guide, which is started by Peter at Emory University in Atlanta. And the whole idea there was to, get roasters, importers, exporters to start disclosing all this data around lot size, farmer name, pricing, farm gate pricing, all of these different kind of metrics that they could start to draw info from and say, this lot from, Guatemala that scores 85 points, this is kind of where the negotiations should start. And that for a roaster or any buyer and like a producer is really valuable because they can kind of look at it, like a producer can look at it and go, oh, cool, if I can get my coffee up to 85 points, or if I produce a honey coffee, or if I did separate lots and separated my coffee a bit more, I could get more money per pound of coffee. So that's one of the things that we've been kind of adding to for 6 or 7 years now, and just like doing this data and donating it. It's been really, really useful, I think, for everybody.
One thing I kind of find about the discourse around coffee pricing at the moment, and it's very much related to the harvest in South America and Vietnam, and how there's lower yield. I was actually in Brazil, and I think we'll see this circumstance happen again. I was in Brazil in 2018 when there was an overproduction, a huge, I think it was a 30 to 40% increase on the amount yielded on the previous year. So they had rainfall at the right time of harvest. So it was just a huge oversupply. And so the coffee price actually crashed. And I think we'll see that again in, probably not too distant future.
This is normally the way the cycle goes. It's like you have these rises because of weather events, and then the price goes up, and then you get a bunch of reinvestment into farming. It's kind of showing what could happen if the price stayed high for forever, is that you'd get more investment on farms, and there'd be more. I mean, ultimately, we need the farmers to be getting enough money to make the whole thing sustainable. Because that's kind of, we talk about sustainability, but really it's got to start with their sustainability. Because they're the ones that are going to look after the land and keep growing this coffee and kind of, keeping the whole thing equitable for everybody, and then down the line we can all just hopefully live in their wealth, really.
Yeah, right. One other anecdote I'll give is that when I was in Brazil, there was coffee producers will actually line up in Santos, the port city, and they'll they'll watch the C price and they'll go and actually make a transaction when it's at a time that's favorable to them. So like one day you'll see the line full because the C price is high, and then the next day it's quite empty because there's like, I'm not selling my coffee today.
Yeah, I mean the price is really high at the moment, and everyone's just not buying coffee. They're just waiting for the price to go down, and then all the buyers and all the traders and stuff will just jump in as soon as the price goes down a little bit. They're all trying to buy the dip.
Yeah, right.
Now, we talked about that from like the farmer's side, but coming back, we kind of touched on it before, but you guys have a very strong connection with your customer and with that kind of clientele and base that you're setting up. Why is your relationship why is this relationship some of the most important part of your business and how you've kind of set up and operate?
We've always tried to listen to our customers. So at the start, when we were very much focused on wholesale, and we knew we needed to get cafes on board with us. So one of our very first customers who are still with us, Market Espresso at the Queen Vic markets, tremendous little joint up there. They wanted to use our coffee. They wanted to improve the coffee they were offering. But the blend we had, Haymaker, which we still have, was not the right sort of coffee for them. They wanted a more classic Italian old school espresso style coffee. So we worked together with them to develop a blend which we call Shadow Boxer, which is a big, bold, chocolatey coffee. And we've been selling it ever since. It's our biggest selling coffee. It uses two great coffees that we roast really well. So it's not like a super roasty.
No, I've had it before. It's like got that deep, rich, lots of body, lots of that, but then there's still that nice sweetness underneath that gives you that, I'm drinking specialty coffee. This is,
the idea, I mean, we've always just tried to help cafe owners to sell more coffee, and instead of us saying, hey, here's this coffee, you should sell this. It's like, what do you and your customers want, and how can we help make that better and sell more coffee for everybody?
Yeah, which not many people do. It's very much the other way of just like, you take what we give you and shut up.
Why did you call the business Rumble Coffee?
We wanted to create knockout coffee.
Okay.
We'll maybe knock out the competition depending on our mood on the day.
Okay.
But, which competition are we talking about here? Let's get into specifics.
Yeah.
I think we've spoken, one of you is actively involved in jiu-jitsu. Are either of you boxing fans?
I love to watch boxing, but I don't like getting punched in the head. So
okay,
I do jiu-jitsu.
Did anyone watch the big fight on the weekend?
No, I've watched the highlights, but I haven't watched the full.
I was disgusted. If anyone follows me on Instagram, I was filthy with the result of Arthur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol.
I saw you post something, but I just pressed the little tap right button to skip past.
Well, I mean, an unsophisticated man like you would do such a thing.
Oh, yeah. If someone's seeing UFC fighting and wants to skip it, it's unsophisticated.
Boxing. We're talking about boxing.
Oh, okay. Didn't you post something about UFC as well? Was that
different? Well, UFC, the organization, is better than boxing as a sport because, there's less corruption. But I was filthy.
Unhappy with the scoring. It was the...
Well, I don't know how boxing works now because, Dmitry Bivol actually landed more punches. Arthur Beterbiev threw more and Arthur Beterbiev won. So, I mean, what wins? Activity or landing punches? I don't know. This is a coffee podcast, believe it or not, but,
Yeah, sorry, I just fell asleep there for a second. Now, guys, I mean, we've gone through a lot here. Is there anything else that kind of jumps to mind that you want to speak of, that you want to kind of finish off here? Any great points? Anyone you want to throw under the bus? You got any, constructive criticism of Kirk? I can take that as well.
Which coffee company would you like to knock out the CEO of?
It's best not to get into any legal stoushes here on...
Yeah, okay. Well, fair enough. Well, so you don't have any concluding remarks? 10 years in the business.
No, I do have. I think the best move is to always buy better coffee. No, if you're a coffee roaster, if you're a consumer, just learn more about the coffee you're buying. Pay for good coffee. Be happy to. Be proud of it.
Yours?
I agree. I'm pretty much the same thing. Yeah, I got nothing.
I agree with that. Buy our coffee.
Because we're leading into the final two segments of the podcast. I think do we head into rapid fire questions now? So we're going to do rapid fire questions. I don't know if you've listened to rapid fire questions before, but we might go one for one. So I'm going to ask you 20 questions in a minute. So we'll start with you. So you can answer the first one. And you're the second one. Sorry, I'm getting you mixed up. Which one? You're Joe, Matt. Right. Almost forgot there. The first time we met since today, by the way.
Yes.
So Liam?
Liam doesn't know either. Liam's like, which one's which?
All right, so...
No, I want an answer.
For all questions. We still only get 1 minute, though. I mean, that feels like the pressure.
Right, well, you're just going to have to say it at the same time.
Okay.
No, is that going to be horrible? Yelling the same answer at the same time?
All right. Well, let's just. All right. Both of you just shout it out when you're ready. So, Liam, hit the introduction.
It's just questions.
Go.
And your time starts now.
Coffee order.
Black one.
Black.
Washed or natural?
Washed.
Natural.
Co-fermented, yes or no?
No.
Geisha or Katura?
Geisha.
Columbia
Geisha.
or Panama?
Columbia.
Filter or espresso?
Filter.
Espresso.
7-Eleven or Coles coffee?
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven.
Instant or McDonald's?
McDonald's.
McDonald's.
Beer or wine?
Neither.
Wine.
Espresso martini or coffee Negroni?
Espresso martini.
Neither.
Favorite BG's album?
Ooh, none.
Best of.
Oh, I like that. Best coffee podcast ever?
It's
It's
just coffee.
Favorite sport?
UFC.
Rowan or Kirk?
Rowan.
Oh, I had that
Kirk.
coming. Oh, yay. Lord of the Rings or Star Wars?
Lord of the Rings.
Best coffee city outside of Australia?
Wellington.
Wellington, yeah.
Xiaolong Bao or ravioli?
Xiaolongbao.
Ravioli.
Last day on earth, what coffee are you having?
There's the lasso.
Nestle
Our sweet science filter blend.
Time's up. Be
Sweet
quiet.
Science Filter Blend. Interesting.
Now, if you're an avid Zelda fan, you would have noticed then that the sound effect
did.
at the
That was-
end
yeah,
is
yeah,
the
very- very
opening
nice,
the chest
very
sound
nice.
effect that's tied into that one.
Are you allowed to use that? That's fine.
Yeah, I
it's
spoke
all-
to,
it's all
I
fine.
spoke
You
to
cleared
Mr.
it. You
Nintendo.
cleared it. Yeah.
I spoke to Bowser, and they were like, "Yeah, it's great. Use it." I would love to hear from the listeners whether that was just gibberish being yelled into a microphone. But I think you could. I think you distinguish the different answers that were coming out there. That was good. That was some of the quickest answers I think we've seen. That was.
I think Jade Jennings still holds the record. I could have given her 50 questions. She was sharp. You guys know Jade?
I listened to the podcast. Yes.
Yeah, she was seriously sharp.
Oh, you listen to the podcast? What's your favorite app?
Oh, I haven't listened to all of them, but I generally like the ones that are focused a little bit on the business, less coffee nerdery, I guess, and more business focused stuff.
Yeah.
So the Artisti Boys the other week, that was really good. Yep.
How about you? Have you listening or you don't?
Oh, no, I've listened to a few of them. I'm kind of the same. Like there was a couple on the coffee competition stuff, which I've never really gotten involved in. So, yeah, the other ones have been good.
The quail one has been the one where a lot of people have probably come and said to me, Ross Quail.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That was a very good episode.
He's always got some wise things to say.
Yeah,
He's got it's like he's rehearsed in front of the mirror for an hour every morning. He just comes in and was just like, there was only one time where he just went, "Well, Rowan, dump me on that one." Next question.
People have walked up to me in the cafe and said, "Oh, I really love the podcast. I love getting quailed. How good's getting quailed?" Because we call it quailing.
Wow.
So when he gives you a deep deep talking to, it's called a quailing. But when I was
Does he know your name yet?
yes, he does. He does. I think. Last night I was playing Zelda actually and finished the Fire Temple.
Oh.
So we got the Fire Temple. Makes things it's quite hot in there. You have to have special
It gets
armor.
really hot in there. You have to wear special armor. And if you don't have that, guess what? You start getting real hot. Your heart start dropping off. And then you just all of a sudden yell, "It's time for an extra hot take with 2 sugars." Hot take. We still...
Now, you guys, of course, know this is the greatest segment in all of coffee podcastery.
I
The
also
greatest.
love that we
obviously.
just yell that out and it always just goes into this super chill song afterwards. We're like, "It's time for an extra hot take." We did have like some crazy guitar at some point, but I don't know if I was a fan of that either.
Well, I'm expecting a extra hot take from both of you. So who wants to go first? So one of you two.
I mean, I kind of did my one already, but we'll just go back to it.
Down the barrel.
If you don't know where your coffee comes from, it's not specialty coffee.
Okay.
That was the guitar riff I was speaking of.
And I mean, really, what we're getting at is like, if it's just like some, regional blend, and you don't know how many farmers it's come from or what's happened there, I don't know how you can market that as specialty coffee. And ultimately, these are the coffees that are used in people's blends, and this is like 90 to 95% of the coffee that are roasteries roasting.
Yep.
So, don't dress it on top with a couple of, single origins that you've gone and spent a bunch of money on and then spend the rest of it on, average coffee and call it specialty.
Now we're getting into the hot take. That feels like the biggest way to sell yourself as a specialty roaster is like have a few things on the board that look fancy and nice, and then the 90% of what
Buy
you're
a
doing.
cup of excellence winner, spend a lot of money, and then just keep quiet about what you're actually selling.
Putting in the blend. Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I always thought was really funny about doing the transparency was, we've always done it for all of the coffees. So all the blends. So I had someone else who was like running a coffee roastery, and they kind of came up to me and they were like, I've looked at your pricing and I think we spend more, we spend more than you. And I was like, it took me by surprise, and I didn't really know the guy. So, I went back and did some research, and it's like all of the blending coffees that they were using were just, generic blending regional lots from, Montgiana or something like that. And, and they just had these kind of, quite fancy single origin coffees. And I'm like, well, no, you don't spend more than we do.
You buy a
coffee.
small amount of the specialty and, have it on the side. All right. Time for your hot take.
So down this camera here, down the barrel, tell us.
I think cafe owners should own their own coffee machines.
Oh!
Which
I completely agree.
If you don't own a cafe, you might not know what this is about, but half the cafes in town don't own their own machines. They're supplied by the roasters, and I think it's a terrible trend in the industry, which has driven a lot of the problems that we have today.
It's weird that we got stuck in this world of doing that. And also it makes sense because people starting off a cafe are like, oh, I'm scared of the amount of money I'm spending. What? I can get the machine with the coffee. But when you have your own machine, you're also more free. You're not tied to anyone.
You're in charge. You can call the shots. You can tell your roaster if the coffee's no good. The roaster has to deliver every week. They have to just come through with great coffee and a great relationship and great service each and every week. Whereas if it's their machine and you're contracted for a period of years, you're just stuck. I had a call today from a guy who is looking to change coffee companies, and he was like, I said, what's the problem with the coffee you're using? He's like, I just don't really like it. And I was like, okay, cool. And he was doing about 15 kilos. And I was like, okay, well, and he says, but they supply the machinery. I was like, well, what do they supply? They supply 5 machines to this guy for 15 kilos.
Wait,
15 kilos a week. 5 not very good machines. Yeah, not very good machines, but 5 machines nonetheless. Yeah. So for 15 kilos, you have to buy the cheapest possible ingredient, cheapest possible green coffee you can absolutely get your hands on. So no wonder he didn't like the taste of it.
I can tell you why he didn't like it, mate.
Because it's terrible.
Yeah, right. That's
not to mention this being run through an old washing machine.
That is an interesting take. And what other benefits are there for if you're a business owner of owning your own coffee machine? Because it can be it's a big investment for a coffee roaster to supply that kind of thing. Why is it a bigger benefit? What else are the benefits to a cafe?
Well, if you're a cafe owner and you own your gear, then you can negotiate the price with the roaster. You can say, hey, here we are doing 20, 30, 40 kilos. What can you do the price? What can you do coffee for me? And then you can all be talking on a even playing field. Whereas if I'm saying, hey, I hear it a lot from cafe owners who are I started with this coffee roastery. The coffee was very good. And then 6 months later, it turned not so good.
Well,
but you've signed that contract. You got that machine on your bench. You have to ride it out for the next 18 months or whatever.
Well, there's some good examples of, ways of financing machinery as well. We're good friends with Jamie Thompson from Silver Chef. You can actually sort of you can save more money by entering an agreement like you said and own the asset after. So you can rent the buy, and that kind of works out.
And if you're, look, it's a bit different if you're not serious about coffee. There's lots of businesses that have coffee as a piece of their business. But if you're a serious specialty coffee business that are trying to sell lots of great coffee and you don't own the machinery, you're not really in charge of the most important asset in your business.
Yeah.
Good coffee machines hold value for a while as well. So it's not like you're totally out of pocket.
Well, the second-hand market's gone a bit bonanzas in coffee machines at the moment, hasn't it?
It has at the moment, yeah.
Well,
how is Starbucks getting away with this? Have you seen the Ghost Frappuccino they've launched?
No.
The Ghost Frappuccino. Basically, a glass of milk. It's milk ice blended with a squirt of white mocha syrup and hazelnut.
So it just looks like a cup of milk.
Just a cup of milk with a couple flavors in it. Is there any
coffee in this at all?
No, it's a white cup, and then you can get some cream on top. The Ghost Frappuccino. How are they getting away with that one? That is marketing at its best.
Are they just crushing no-dos in there?
Just crushing no-dos in there.
Have you seen the advertisements for the Grimace shake?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, there's like a purple milkshake from McDonald's for Grimace. I don't know why, but your hot take was that your hot take?
Yeah, that was my
okay, because that just reminded me of the Grimace shake.
But did you see the Grimace shake is how the internet can take a hold of something and just take it to a whole new level. So the whole premise behind it, and it's launched here now. It was launched in the States first. It's already been done. But they launched it because they were like, Gen Z have never heard of Grimace. They don't know what Ronald McDonald and Birdie and Hamburglar and all that are. So they wanted to celebrate Grimace's birthday, and they brought back like McDonald's parties. They took all these old photos styled with Grimace, and they also launched this milkshake that was like a purple milkshake. But then the internet took over it, and maybe we can, if there's a reel here, we can pull up some of those, or just look up Grimace Shake TikTok. And everyone turned it into this like Halloween thing where it was everyone doing their classic TikTok like, hey guys, I'm going to try the new Grimace Shake. And they take a sip, and then it would just cut to like a back alley with them like dead on the ground with purple liquid all around them, like convulsing. People did videos of them getting dragged with like purple liquid left behind. And it basically turned into this whole like murder thing, and thousands, like Courtney Cox did one, like celebrities were doing it, like jumping on. It was crazy. So if you want a good time, go watch the best Grimace Shake TikToks. Very enjoyable.
Might have a peek. My extra hot take with 2 Sugars this week is more of a question, and we kind of touched on it during the podcast. Would you prefer to pay a 10% surcharge on a Sunday, or the prices just be higher every day? Pretty hardcore, guys. I know you're all stumped on it.
There was a silence because I think I was honestly just stopping and thinking about it. Where it's like, I think just make it the same at the whole time. I also have like, there's a point where you work in hospitality. It's like the world's changed. Everyone looks at the world as like 9 to 5 on Monday to Friday. Hospitality is a different industry with just like a different base of how everything goes. I think just make it the same higher price all around.
I like the surcharge. I think it's a chance to educate the consumer, the customer, that it's more expensive to do business on these days. Generally, customers don't, and nor should they. They shouldn't know all the ins and outs of your business, but it's a chance to go, hey, this is a Saturday or a Sunday or a public holiday. It costs more to do everything today. You need to pay a little bit more.
I think, because I mean, during the week, if you've got like a good cafe business and you're running like Monday to Friday, that's the money that's keeping the business going. And if you try and raise the prices during the week, you're probably going to push some customers away, maybe. And I think it's like the surcharge on the weekends. I just think as like surge pricing for hospitality. It's like, this is when it's most expensive, so this is when you're going to pay more.
Rowan, your take?
Yeah, I said my take. I think it should just be the whole time around. I always feel like surcharge is this weird hidden add-on kind of thing. And there's also some cafes that take the absolute mickey out of it and just have like, it'll be like, oh, it's a Tuesday 2 a.m. surcharge, a 2 p.m. surcharge. We forgot to tell you about that one. Like there's some places where if you look down, there's a surcharge on every day of the week. And you're like, well, so you just don't, none of the prices on the menu are a real price. Like this is just absurdity. Whereas I feel like for me, just having the prices as like what they need to be and what they should be to support it. But I agree that there's probably difference, right? There's probably more community-based ones where you're like, your 9 to 5 is coming. You're like, I want you to have a slightly better price than the people that are whipping out just on the weekend.
Well, I was having this discussion with a mutual friend of ours, already mentioned, Jamie Thompson, where he was just saying, well, I mean, just smooth it. Like, then no one can complain.
The business changes so much. I mean, you know what it's like in the city, that it's no longer what it was. You can't rely on that Monday to Friday. So you've got these Mondays and Fridays, which are much less than they used to be. So, like, we've seen how people move around the world has changed a lot over the last few years. And like, you can't guess. Because if you want to stabilize the price, you're guessing over the next 12 months.
Yeah, you are, mate.
That's hard.
Because one thing we do at our cafe is we charge the same for...
Sorry, but with that, would you then offer... So you're saying the surcharge fixes that? What, you just adjust what the surcharge is?
No, but I'm saying like if you want to charge... the argument is that you would charge more every day to accommodate those public holidays, etc., which means you're projecting into the future what you need to charge, what sales will be, and things fluctuate too much to...
Yeah, well, I was just saying one thing that we do is we don't charge extra for alternative milks because we upcharge for regular milk. So we charge a little bit more for regular milk, and this is kind of this thing because I spent some time as a vegan a few years ago, and I was like, the most frustrating thing for me was like trying to find something to eat, and it was always more expensive. So we upcharge milk, and so...
Yeah, we've got some customers who do the same thing. They don't want to charge extra for it, so it's all the same price.
Yeah, so that's kind of, and I think I've had more customers appreciate it, to be honest. And it's still like, actually, it's justifiable for everyone, even the regular milk drinkers.
I think they should do the same. We were chatting about this with reusable cups as well. I think rather than offering discounts on bringing a reusable cup, like often they go, if you bring your own cup, we'll discount 50 cents. It should just be that if you're going to buy a takeaway cup with your coffee, it costs you 50 cents to get that cup.
I really like the idea of that. I just don't want to put any baristas through that conversation.
Yeah.
100 times
But it adds, it adds to that idea of like doing it. Like you see it applied across like all your Coles and whatever supermarket. It's not like you get a discount off your order if you bring a bag in. You have to spend the 25 cents to buy that bag. And the mentality needs to shift across the whole industry, especially now because reusable cups just feel like they took a bit of a dive and need to come back.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That's a really good point you raise about Coles upcharging. It's probably a good philosophy we could all adopt, to be fair.
Yeah.
So,
I was ready to get like something else thrown at me, but it was just a genuine compliment.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
that was one of the more pragmatic things you've said.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, I think that just about wraps us up for this week. It was very great to have you guys on. I've wanted to meet you for a long time. Little anecdote of mine, I was working at a cafe in Fitzroy one time, and you guys came in, and one of the other baristas goes, he's like, guys, they're the Rumble Coffee guys. They're the Rumble Coffee guys. We've got to make sure these are the best coffees ever. So, I mean, second time I've seen you in the flesh, but yeah, been a pleasure to meet you. Been a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, great to be here. We've had heaps of fun.
Thanks for having us on. It's been great.
And thank you I really appreciate all the work and that you put into, being transparent, doing the right thing by all the farmers and everything. And it's a good way that you should follow. If you're looking at starting a coffee roastery, come chat to these guys, annoy them, and they'll say, don't do it because there's too many of us already, and go do something else.
Come and work for us.
How do the good listeners and viewers of this podcast keep in contact with you or follow your journey? So you're on Instagram?
We're on Instagram at Rumble Coffee. Go to our website, rumblecoffee.com.au.
And what coffee on your offering right now should people just go to the website and buy right now?
Get our main card pack, which is our 3 most popular blends. You get a little bit of everything. Something's good there for everybody.
Yeah, okay. I like that.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much. And as always,
it's just coffee. Hey. Yeah, I like that.
Beautiful.
Oh. Looks like Liam's got a grimace shake here, actually.
Yeah, the grimace shake. And what flavor is it? What's purple?